If you ever find yourself on a county back road at 2 in the morning in the middle of February and you see hazard triangles glowing in your high beams, do not stop to move them. I learned that the hard way. I was 28, working nights at a cold storage warehouse 40 minutes from my apartment. The shift ended at 2 a.m., and that night the snow had been falling since lunch. By the time I punched out, it wasn't gentle anymore. It came sideways in white sheets, and the wind slapped the building hard enough to make the bay doors rattle like someone trying to get in. My car was a dented 2010 Corolla with tires that were already overdue. I warmed it up with the heater screaming, scraped a clean oval in the windshield, and stared at the little blue GPS dot like it was a promise. I just wanted my bed, a hot shower, and silence. The radio said a wreck had jammed up the interstate a few miles north. A jackknife truck, lanes closed, expect delays. The word delays hit me like a threat. I'd already been on my feet for 10 hours, lifting frozen cartons until my shoulders went numb. So I made the same stupid calculation everybody makes when they're tired. Back roads. Shorter. Quieter. No semi-trucks. The first 10 minutes were manageable. Cornfields on both sides, the pale stubble buried under fresh snow, fence posts poking through like broken teeth. Then the tree line thickened, and the road narrowed into a corridor of black trunks. My high beams didn't light up the world, they carved out a tunnel, and everything outside that tunnel felt like it was waiting. The worst part was the absence of other cars. No taillights ahead, no headlights behind. Just my engine, the wipers thumping, and the wind worrying at the edges of the car.
I remember thinking, for no good reason, that if I slid off the road out here, nobody would find me until morning. Maybe not even then, if the drifts kept building. A mile later, my phone confirmed it. No service. Not one bar. I tossed it into the cup holder and kept both hands tight on the wheel. The pavement looked wet, but every time the tires hit a darker patch, the steering went loose for a half second, like the road was oiled. Black ice, hiding under blowing snow. I started talking to myself just to hear a human voice. Little stuff. Easy. Don't be dumb. Then the FM station cut out. For a second, all I heard was dead static. And underneath it, faint and warped, like it was coming from the bottom of a well, a woman's voice. Hello? Can you? It vanished before I could touch the dial. 5 minutes after that, my high beams caught 3 reflective hazard triangles planted in the middle of the lane. The kind road crews use at an accident scene. They glowed red and angry in the snow, spaced out like a warning. I slowed automatically. The road here was flanked by woods on the right and a wide field on the left that dissolved into white. There were no flashing lights, no cones, no sign, just those triangles, perfectly upright, as if someone had taken their time placing them during a blizzard. I stopped 20 feet short, engine idling, hazard lights clicking. I told myself maybe a car had gone into the ditch farther up and someone had marked a hazard. Then a voice called from outside, not the radio, real air. Please, it said, thin and strained. I can't feel my hands.
The sound came from the right shoulder, near a snowbank that rose like a wall. I leaned forward, peering past the triangles. The high beams reached a little farther and picked out a shape crouched low by the ditch, half sheltered by the bank. I cracked the window an inch, and the wind instantly shoved snow into the car, stinging my face. "Hey!" I yelled. "Are you hurt?" The figure lifted her head, pale skin, wet hair stuck to a cheek. A woman, maybe early 30s, no hat, no gloves. Her jacket looked too thin for this weather. "My car's in the ditch," she said. "My phone's dead. Can you let me warm up?" The request was reasonable. That's what made it dangerous. My eyes kept dropping to her hands. Bare, yes, but not red, not stiff. They rested on her knees like she'd been waiting for a bus. She kept glancing past me, not at my face, at my open driver's door. I told myself to do the responsible thing, call 911, throw her a blanket, don't get out. But there was no service, and the nearest house could be miles. I popped the door and stepped into the cold. It hit my lungs like glass. The wind didn't just blow, it shoved. Snow scraped across the asphalt in little snakes, and the darkness beyond my beams felt thick enough to grab. "Stay in the car," the woman said quickly, too quickly, like she'd rehearsed what I might do. "Just unlock it." "Where's your car?" I asked. She pointed into the trees without looking. "Right there." I slid. "Please, I'm going to freeze." I raised my phone anyway, trying for a bar. Nothing. When I lowered it, I saw something that wasn't snow, a fresh boot print near the edge of the woods, then another, deep, clean treads. Someone had been standing there.
The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. A faint click came from the darkness behind her, metal on metal, like a ratchet tightening. I turned my head, and my high beams briefly caught the shine of something smooth and black between the trees. Not an animal, not bark, a vehicle's paint. My stomach dropped. "I'm going to drive up the road and find a signal," I said, backing toward my car. "I'll call an ambulance, get someone out here." The woman's expression changed like a light switching off. "No," she said. Not shouted, just firm. "You're not." Two silhouettes stepped out of the trees. Dark coats, hoods cinched, faces hidden. One held something long that could have been a shovel handle, could have been worse. The woman moved too, quick and practiced, angling to cut me off from my door. The triangles behind me suddenly felt less like a warning and more like a fence. I lunged for the driver's seat, and my boot hit a slick patch. My feet shot out, and I slammed onto the pavement, palms stinging through my gloves. The cold stole my breath. The woman laughed once, sharp, surprised. The two men broke into a run, boots crunching through the drift at the shoulder. They didn't yell. They didn't have to. I scrambled up and half-crawled into the car, slamming the door as a hand slapped the window. Her face filled the glass, lips moving in a hiss I couldn't hear over my pulse. I hit the lock button. The men reached the passenger side. One yanked the handle hard. The other leaned close to the window, hood framing a strip of pale cheek. He raised a tool and tested the glass with a controlled tap. I stomped the gas. The tires spun and the car didn't move. The dashboard twitched as traction control fought for traction that wasn't there.
Another tap. Another. Not panic. Patience. The man struck again. The impact boomed through the cabin, and a spiderweb of cracks burst across the passenger window like frozen lightning. Panic makes time thick. I remember every detail. My fingers slipping on the wheel, the heater roaring useless warm air, the smell of rubber as the tire screamed on ice. I threw the car into reverse. The Corolla lurched an inch, then slid sideways, rear fishtailing toward the ditch. The woman kept her palm on my driver window, walking with the car, calm as if she owned the road. "Open it," she mouthed, slow and exaggerated. The men crowded the passenger side. Another blow. The window held, barely. Then, like a miracle, the tires caught a gritty patch, maybe gravel, maybe exposed asphalt. The car jolted forward. The woman stumbled back a step, and I took it, wrenching the wheel left, aiming for the open field instead of the road. I heard one of the men shout a single word, "Truck." The Corolla hopped the shallow shoulder and plunged into the field. Instantly, the steering went mushy. The world turned white. Snow exploded over the hood, and the undercarriage scraped something hard. The car slowed like it had driven into wet cement. But the field was open, and open meant options. I kept my foot down. The engine whined. Behind me, in the rearview mirror, the men and the woman shrunk into blurred shapes. Then headlights flared on in the trees to the right, high off the ground. A pickup. It rolled out of concealment with no hesitation, as if it had been waiting for this exact moment. It swung into the field parallel to me, tires chewing through drifts like they weren't even there. It gained speed fast, too fast.
I realized with cold clarity that my car wasn't the prize, I was. The truck's grille lined up with my driver's side, close enough I could see the dark outline of the driver. I could also see something in the passenger seat, a second person holding up a phone, filming, like they wanted proof. If that truck hit me out here, nobody on the road would see it. In the snow and wind, the crash could sound like a tree snapping. I aimed for the only landmark I could make out, an old barn silhouetted at the far edge of the field, its roofline barely visible through the blowing snow. If I could get to a building, I could get a door between me and them. The truck surged closer. I heard a thump as something struck my rear bumper, not full impact, more like a hurting nudge. The Corolla skittered in the ruts and corrected only because I kept my foot down. The barn grew slowly, too slowly. Wind forced snow through every crack around my doors. My eyes watered and froze at the corners. The passenger window gave up with a sharp pop, not from a hit this time, but from stress and cold. Wind poured into the cabin, carrying snow that spun around my face. I tasted salt from my own split lip. The truck hunked once, long and impatient. The barn door ahead looked half open, like a mouth. I reached the barn and the field tipped. The Corolla sank. The wheels spun freely, spraying snow, and forward motion tied. Stuck. The truck stopped 10 yards away, angled to block any path back to the road. Its driver door opened. A figure stepped out, bulky in layers, face hidden by a hood and something pale over the mouth. Another door opened, then another.
My hands shook so hard I could barely unbuckle. I had a small folding knife in the console, a cheap one I used to cut packaging tape at work. I grabbed it anyway because holding something sharp felt better than holding nothing. I kicked my door open and the wind almost ripped it from my grip. Snow immediately filled the cabin. The barn loomed beside me, boards dark and swollen with age. The big sliding door was cracked open just enough for wind to whistle through. Then someone called out from the storm, close enough that it cut through the wind. Eden. My blood went colder than the snow. I hadn't told any of them my name. Hearing my name shifted it from random robbery into something planned. I ran for the gap in the barn door, boots punching into drifts, legs already burning. Inside, the barn smelled like old hay and damp wood. The wind threaded through broken boards, making the place breathe in low groans. My phone light was pathetic, but it was something. I swept it over rusted tools, a collapsed stall, a half-buried feed bucket. Then the light landed on pale dupes hanging from a nail, plastic zip ties, dozens of them. Next to them, a roll of silver duct tape. Beneath that, a blue tarp folded neatly, edges crisp. That's when I understood why they brought me off the road. Not to steal my wallet, not to take my car. They wanted time, privacy. Footsteps crunched outside, circling. The door I slipped through shifted, pushed wider by a hand testing it. "Come on," the woman's voice sang, sweet again. "You're freezing in there."
I backed deeper until my shoulder blades hit a ladder leading to the loft. The loft was a black rectangle overhead. I climbed, hands slipping on cold wood, and pulled myself onto dusty boards. From up there I could see out through gaps in the siding. Headlights painted moving stripes across the snow. The truck idled low and steady, like a generator. Shadows passed in and out of those stripes. A flashlight snapped on inside the barn, tight and controlled. The beam didn't jitter. It moved in slow, methodical arcs. "Evan," a man's voice called, almost conversational. "We can do this easy, or you can make it hard, and you'll lose fingers to frostbite before sunrise." I pressed my face to the wood, trying to breathe quietly. My heart hammered hard enough to shake my ribs. The beam found the ladder. It paused. Then it angled up, catching dust motes, catching the edge of my boot. "Loft," the man said calmly. A second later, something clanged against the ladder, metal shaking. Someone started to climb. I crawled along the loft boards, trying to put distance between me and that ladder. Snow sifted through holes in the roof like ash. Below, they muttered to each other in quick, low bursts. There was no clever plan, just the basic animal knowledge that if they got hands on me, it was over. At the far end of the loft, I found a small loading hatch that opened to the outside. It was half frozen shut. I jammed my fingers under the edge and yanked. The wood protested, but it gave. Wind exploded in, ripping at my jacket and stealing heat from my face. Beyond the hatch was a drop into a deep drift along the barn's rear wall. Behind me, the ladder shook violently as someone reached the top. A hand slapped the board, searching. I shoved myself through the hatch and fell. The snow swallowed me up to the chest, cold and soft, and for 1 second, the world went silent.
Then I heard shouting from inside the barn and the crunch of someone sprinting outside to cut me off. I clawed forward, dragging my legs out of the drift, and ran for the trees. The wind erased my footprints almost as soon as I made them, but it also erased me. That was my only advantage. Across the field, a darker line marked the property boundary. Beyond it, maybe another road, maybe a house. I picked a direction and ran, legs sinking with every step, cold biting into my thighs like teeth. Flashlight beams swept behind me, slow and searching. The truck engine revved, tires spinning as it tried to follow through deeper drifts. The woman screamed something I couldn't make out, her voice breaking with real frustration. My lungs burned. The air felt too sharp to swallow. My fingers went numb around the knife, but I kept it clenched. I plunged into the woods, and the wind dulled instantly, replaced by a dead hush. Snow sat heavy on branches and dumped in soft clumps when I brushed past. Between trunks, I saw a faint orange glow, a porch light. I ran toward it like it was salvation. Then I saw the mailbox at the end of the drive, half buried. A name in black paint, Harrow, my supervisor's name. The farmhouse windows were dark except for the porch bulb. I barreled up the steps, slipped, caught the railing, and hammered the door with both fists. Nothing. I hit it again and yelled until my throat tore. Still nothing. The house felt empty in a way that didn't make sense. No muffled TV, no furnace hum, no dog barking at a stranger in the night. I tried the knob, locked. I pressed my face to the glass and saw my reflection, eyes wide, snow crusted in my eyebrows. Behind my reflection, the interior was a black void.
The porch light flickered once, then steadied, like it had only been on long enough to pull me in.
Footsteps crunched inside the tree line. Slow now, deliberate. A male voice drifted out, older than the others, calm enough to make my skin crawl. "You don't want to make noise here, Evan. Not at this house." I backed off the porch and scanned for anything, a window I could break, a shed, even a vehicle. The voice continued, almost kind. "You're tired. You're cold. Come back to the barn and we'll get you warmed up. Then we'll talk." "Why?" I croaked. A hooded shape stepped into the porch light just enough to show a gloved hand holding zip ties, dangling like keys. "Because," he said, "you've been alone all night, and nobody's coming until morning." Right then, somewhere far off, I heard a new sound, a diesel engine grinding closer, heavy, approaching. The hooded man froze. I saw his head tilt, listening. For the first time, uncertainty flickered through his posture. 2 yellow lights appeared between the trees, wide-set and bobbing. A snowplow. It pushed a rolling wave of snow ahead of it, making the ground tremble. I didn't waste the moment. I sprinted into the drive, waving both arms. The plow horn blasted, loud enough to vibrate my teeth. It slowed, and the driver leaned forward, squinting through his windshield. "Help!" I screamed. The driver swung the plow so its massive blade angled between me and the woods like a shield. The hooded man vanished back between the trunks. I caught movement, 2 more shapes retreating, and the woman's pale face turning once toward me with an expression that wasn't anger. It was calculation, like she was already choosing another night. The plow driver cracked his door. "Get in, now!" I climbed into the cab, shaking so hard I could barely pull the door closed. The cab smelled like diesel and stale coffee. The driver stared at me, then out toward the woods. "Who's out there?" he demanded. I could only whisper. They knew my name.
He grabbed his radio mic and held it close. "Unit 12 to county," he said. "I've got a civilian here claiming an attempted abduction on Harrow Lane. Need a sheriff and a trooper." The reply crackled through static, and under that static, faint and warped, came the same voice I'd heard earlier. "Hello? Can you—" The driver frowned and clicked the volume down. "That ain't dispatch," he muttered. "That's somebody riding the frequency." As we rolled out, his headlights swept the edge of the field. Near the ditch, the hazard triangles were gone. We didn't stop until the plow reached the wider county road, where the wind had room to build drifts tall as the plow blade. The driver kept glancing at me like he was waiting for me to say it was a prank, that this was all some weird February hallucination. I asked him to keep the blade between us and any side roads. He did, silent, like he understood the language of isolated roads. His radio hissed in bursts. Once, for half a second, the same woman's voice threaded through again, closer this time, as if she was in the cab with us. "Please, let me in." The driver killed the radio entirely after that. When his headlights caught the field we'd crossed, I saw tracks, a tight circle from the pickup, clean and practiced, like someone had rehearsed turning around in the storm without leaving the road. Beside it, a single set of footprints that ended in the middle of the drift, as if the person had stepped into the bed of the truck and vanished. A sheriff's deputy met us at the intersection, lights strobing glue across the snow. I gave my statements sitting in the plow cab, hands wrapped around a paper cup of coffee the driver insisted I drink. The coffee tasted like burned plastic, and I drank it anyway. They went to the barn. They found the zip ties and tape, the tarp, and a small propane heater ready to be lit.
Behind the barn, in a sheltered hollow where the wind hadn't scoured the ground, they found 2 shallow pits already started. The soil was frozen, chipped away with tools until it looked like broken pottery. The deputy didn't tell me what the pits were for. He didn't have to. He stood over them with his jaw working, like he was chewing a thought he couldn't spit out. At dawn, they drove me back to the warehouse lot to retrieve my car. It sat where I'd left it at the start of my shift, frosted over, looking innocent. I wanted to believe I could climb in and drive home, and the night would become a story I told once and then forgot. But when I opened the door, something fell into the snow at my feet, one of those red hazard triangles, folded flat. On the back, scratched into the plastic with a key or a knife, was a single word: next. It could have been a coincidence. It could have been a cruel joke. The problem is, I never told the deputy about the triangles, not once. I hadn't even mentioned them to the plow driver. I hadn't thought about them until the last line of headlights swept past the ditch and showed they were gone. Someone out there had been close enough to put it in my car. And someone out there, the kind of person who can wait in a blizzard without shaking, still knows my name. I don't take back roads anymore. If the highway is closed, I go the long way or I wait. Because out there, in the white noise of a February storm, people can build traps that look exactly like help.